few years ago, I was teaching Joshua chapter 4 to my couples class, and that's where Joshua led the children of Israel across the Jordan River. God did a miracle and parted the river, and they walked across on dry land. And God wanted them to remember what He had done there that day, so He asked Joshua to get 12 stones out of that river and to build kind of a visual reminder so that when the children of Israel would see those stones, they would be reminded of what God had done, and they could also pass on this story to their children for generations. And so as we discussed that passage as a couples class, we all decided that we need visual reminders and that we wanted to pass on God's miracles that He does in our lives to our children. So I developed what I call the Joshua jar. What you do to use the Joshua jar is you place this jar on your desk at work or on a table at home, and what you do is you write a prayer request, just like I have here. You take a little marker, write a prayer request on a stone. And this is my brother Mike. He's been out of church for a while, so I just have written Mike back in church. And what I'll do with this, after I write on it, I'll place it at the base of the jar. I won't put it in the jar until God answers it. When God answers it, then I place it in the jar. So the ones that are in the jar, God has already did a miracle in their lives, and He's answered my request. So I have a few more here too. So Susan, I go to church with her. She's had cancer for a while. So of course I've just written Susan on there and cancer. I'll place it right there in front of the jar. That will remind me to pray for her when I see that. I've got another friend that Kristen is wanting to have a baby, but she's got some infertility issues. So we've got a rock out for her to remind us to keep praying for Kristen. Also, I had a friend of mine had a bad accident a couple weeks ago, Chris, and now he has some brain trauma. And so we're praying for God to heal him as well. And once God answers those requests, we place them in the jar. Here's one that I'd prayed for about a year. I was able to put this in the jar last week. George, he actually got a job last week with Mars in Cleveland, and so I was able to place his stone in the jar. And just kind of keep in mind, the stones really don't have any power. The power is in God, but it's a great visual reminder of God's power. So I also have one here for Johnny that I was able to put in the jar too. Johnny's a good friend of mine, had cancer for a while, and God has healed him. Barb here that you see here has beaten cancer 3 times, so I actually have 3 different rocks in for her beating cancer 3 times. It's been really good for me to start my Joshua jar, and I think it would be great for you as well. I think what you'll see is your prayer life will enlarge. You'll be praying more, and not only that, but your faith over time as you do this work with the jar and with your prayer request, your faith will grow, because you'll be able to look at that, hey, God did answer these prayers. And not only will your faith will grow, but your world will change, and people's lives will change because God changes lives through prayer. And you'll be able to use this jar to share with others if you place it in a public place like your office or even to your neighbors at home, because people will come in, they'll see the jar, they'll see the rocks, and they will ask, what's going on with the stones, what's going on with the jar, and you'll be able to share your faith through that and what God is doing in your life. So if you haven't started a jar and you haven't ever done this, get you a Joshua jar. You won't regret it. But if you have and you've been doing it a little while and you know someone who needs a little hope in their life, get them a jar, because this jar represents hope, it represents prayer, and there's always hope in prayer. Hope you have a great day, and thanks so much. God bless.